Hey everyone, welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. Welcome to the Daily Medicine Transmission for the 15th of March 2022. Man, I cannot get that right, no matter how many takes I have on this. This is a little bit out of the ordinary, and I am shifting things around. I am making changes. We're so close to the vernal equinox where we have a balance of light and dark in terms of the position relative to our sun. It denotes the changing of a season, and coming into Aries really is the beginning of the astrological year for at least in Western astrology. So I'm trying something new, and the streams on both ends, the Starseed Ministry is going to be on Monday. That's still going to be streamed at 10 a.m. Eastern. The Catalyst Astrology Report still going to be streamed on Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. But the Daily Medicine I'm going to bring into a much more concise format during the week, just to have a check-in, an energy update, right? A quick astrological consideration and consultation for the day, and really just to give something concrete to reflect upon as your day goes forward, and that is me included. So welcome back, everyone, and if you're new here and this is the first time you're here, welcome, thank you, and a shout out to the monthly patrons on Subscribestar. Our next Starseed Fellowship is going to be on the 25th of March. I'm going to post a link on Subscribestar, and then we can start having a conversation about a timing. And the full moon reports are coming out this week. They will be available for subscribers by via link on Subscribestar. And if you are Pisces or Virgo in your sign, then lucky you. Those will be the ones this time around that'll be posted publicly for everyone. So let's get right into it, because this is meant to be a concise report of the day's energies and how to how to and what to use, what kind of tools, what kind of perspectives, what can we reflect on as we go through the day. And I know by the time this is recorded and uploaded, it's going to be through the day for many of us, and at least partially gone, but it's just because I decided on something new and just trying it out and getting my self acclimated, which has been a little difficult, but that's part of transition. So it is the Ides of March, and I want to take some time to address this, because it is something that happens every year. It's the 15th of March. That is the Ides of March. It is a Roman holiday, or it was a Roman holiday when there was a Roman Empire. So it represents the settling of debts, the Ides of March. So they recognized it as a holiday. They gave it attention. The deity, the patron deity of the Ides of March is Jupiter, especially Jupiter in Pisces, being the co-ruler of Pisces. Neptune is also the ruler of Pisces, and it's when the sun is at 25 degrees Pisces, which in terms of Sabian symbols is very much about a cathartic release at a soul level to purify like the entire consciousness, the unconscious, the social system, the transcendental experience, right? The karmic, multidimensional experience. Pisces in the 12th house is everything, right? All goes back to the source. And so the settling of debts is part of the process of really surrendering everything to that process in order to come into a new seed point of potential for a new creative expression. And that is Aries, that is the seed. And regardless if you are in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, when we get to this point of equinox, the seed still factors into the imagery. So it's either being presented as a viable new creative expression in the spring, or it's being released as a function of the harvest in the fall or the autumn. So it's still relevant in terms of the overall symbolism, even if you're not going into the spring because you live in the southern hemisphere. So I try not to designate too many seasonal patterns to the astrology, because there are people from all over the world that have different climate and weather experiences based on where they are that aren't, exactly relevant to Western astrology at that time. So anyway, this is also the day that Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC. So the Ides of March, they picked that day on purpose. That was definitely some sort of ritualized sacrifice, a settling of debts, an accounting for, and a purification of corrupt and perverted practices out of the social order. Now, whether or not they were actually justified, I don't know. That's for a conversation, because they wanted to assassinate Caesar because he was getting too much power, and they did not want him to become a totalitarian emperor. And the irony is that they murdered him with that intention, right? They activated and they ritualized this settling of accounts with their with Jupiter as their patron saint of this situation. And the irony is that Rome still got a series of tyrannical or inept emperors for a really long time. So after they assassinated Caesar, eventually his nephew, Octavius Caesar, came into power and was actually an emperor, and was, from my understanding, I don't really study Roman history as much as my partner. He's like a steel trap for this kind of information. He really likes to study history, and Roman history, he's probably got some past life there. I think my understanding is that Octavius ruled very adeptly, but as an emperor, right, for a long time. And then they had a series of really terrible emperors. And this is really in conjunction, or at least in correlation with, the eventual fall of Rome. So the settling of debts, their attempt to purify what they felt was corrupt, but really, I think it was the beginning of the end of Rome, because did they need strong leadership? Did they even care about the people as much as they didn't want somebody to hold them accountable or tell them what to do as senators? So that sounds familiar too, doesn't it? It's not like they were necessarily, common people in the Senate, if you know what I mean. So, the Ides of March, here we are. I can't say what's going to happen today out in the global stage. All I can do is share with you the astrology and give an energy update. Now, one thing I do want to share with you before we move on to that is that so he's assassinated on the Ides of March, 15th of March, 44 BC. Well, in May, not even like 2 months or 9 weeks after the assassination, we find that it's very well documented that there is a comet that passes over that's called Caesar's Comet. And they called it that because the common people, believed that Caesar was deified. Now, keep in mind that the people probably loved Caesar, right? They probably did, because he might have been ruthless and as a ruler, but he was actually consolidating and making Rome better for everybody. I'm not trying to condone anything. I'm just giving historical perspective here. And there you go. So this comet passes 9 weeks after his assassination. The people see it as an omen that he was deified, and they called it Caesar's Comet, and they minted a coin with his face on it, and then also the other side, the 8-pointed star. Here's the flame or the tail of the Caesar's Comet. Now, there are people who write and believe and have spoken to the idea that this was not a comet at all, but this was one of the passings of Nibiru. So that's just an extra little piece of information if that interests you and you want to dive into it. Now, what I will say, though, that is for sure is that the Senate murdered and assassinated the popular ruler because they didn't want the popular ruler to consolidate power. And in the process of doing that, they deified him. The people minted a coin and named a comet after him. So I would say that they worked absolutely against their own interests, because their own interests were what they were acting on, right? And so this is what the conversation about our moon in Leo today is not. It's not going to necessarily apply that dramatically to each of us and the people that are watching this now. For the most part, you may see it more dramatically out in the world, but that more dramatically is still interacting with our own need to express ourselves, our own voice, our own combust emotions right now as well. So And it's in that Leo area of either devotion and devoting our passion to and offering it to something of meaning and value, or just fulfilling ourselves, which is the dark side of Leo, is tyrannical. It is an emperor type of energy, but also too, it is more, it's conceited, it's narcissistic, and when you are functioning that way and you're not getting, you are not the center of gravity in the entire world around you as a narcissist, and we all have the potential, but some people have true on personality disorders. Then you also will do anything to pull that attention back in. So it's going to follow all kinds of, there's going to be a lot. And I feel like many people, depending on where you find some of these transits happening, are having a lot of desperate attempts, well, not the people, but attempts to, reattach. I'm getting a sense here that there is a desperate attempt to reattach. And that's what a narcissist would do: gaslight and do whatever they need to do to put themselves back as the main source of gravity in their life and pull everybody back into their drama. So, but I, with the moon too, we are very susceptible to forces that are not necessarily material or at least tangible. They're more intuitive. They're more astral. They're more in the feels. And I think that this has also been going on. So I just wanted to share this about Julius Caesar, about the Ides of March, the settling of debts, the sun in Pisces, the catharsis that is initiated and we are identified with. But having a moon in Leo pulls us, we're like our own black hole, or our own sun that has got such a strong gravitational quality to it that we have to be very mindful about how we are utilizing that energy, okay? And not everybody is going to be mindful. So let's look at the chart and go through today's astrology to just give a quick update. The moon is in Leo, right? We're looking at it today in the middle of today, or the late morning on the West Coast, later in the afternoon across the pond. But what we're looking at here is a moon in Leo that not only is going to be a T-square with her own nodal axis, right? So how we feel now, embodied now in this consciousness, in this experience, in a conflict with the dragon of our soul, is going to be highlighted. And this is very close to these galactic Atlantean degrees as well in late Leo. Our full moon last month was in this basic territory as part of a grand square with the nodes, because the sun was in Aquarius. So that's going to come back up again, and it's going to be that inner reverberation, or, just the temperature on the kettle really needing to be released, right? And having a point of exit and being challenged by our soul and where our soul is pulling. This is a lot of fixed energy, of course. Also, the opposition to Saturn and Aquarius, and all of the quincunxes today with Neptune, Jupiter, Pisces, Jupiter, Neptune, and the sun in Pisces, the moon in Leo. So we're feeling into our own individual voice, right? The whistle of, especially in the last half of Leo, the whistle of the kettle, right? The actual sound, the release of the steam. This is where we're at. And this is what to expect as we go through today as well. It's just getting hotter, and the pressure will need to be released in some way. And so there's tons of opportunity to use this energy in a very mindful way, to transmute and to settle debts, to surrender to source, to surrender to the will of God. Remember, the new moon that we are in is started out in Pisces, right? The symbol of courage and consecration that we want to either idealize for ourselves, or to follow in the footsteps of that which represents the how are we going to be an avatar of that ideal identity of transcendence and compassion and forgiveness. That is what we're working with right now. So when we have this moon in Leo, that is, it's just need to have this release, like emotionally and voice, strong voice. The quincunx to all of the Pisces is frustrating, and it will continue to be frustrating because the moon, it started with Jupiter early morning hours or late last night, and then we'll continue with Neptune and the sun today. So, but this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to adjust ourselves in the uncomfortableness of these aspects not fitting together, because this is all about the whole. The individual kind of disappears with but we have at least the sun and Jupiter here. So there is representation. There is identification, individual identification with the whole, as well as Neptune making the whole that much more present and powerful. So it can seem like our voice is being drowned out, but really it's this experience of intensity, of creativity, of passion that moves through us. If we have an outlet, it will move through us and be able to offer something in this process of settling these debts, at an energetic level, an emotional level. We are each responsible for what we are contributing to the whole, which is Aquarius and Pisces. Well, I mean, it would be the whole top of the chart, but where we're talking about now is Aquarius and Pisces, because Pluto's the only Capricorn left, and the South Node in Scorpio. That's it, right? Those aspects of tangible reality are being demolished, and it's representing the past that we've already mastered at a soul level, what we're moving away from, right? The hidden realm, the secrets, the hidden structural foundation of our communal agreements, the resources we create together, the power that's generated in society. This is all on its, it's all about the meaning of the collective as a whole, the energy of the collective as a whole, and the return back, the experience of it, the experience of being immersed in it. So I feel like that it's going to be a difficult day still. And I laugh because I'm right there. I'm right there with you, having to feel the feels too. So just be aware that these are all opportunities right here with all this Pisces energy to allow this catharsis, to find a release, find a way to open this channel within your own emotions and your own feelings, or your own subconscious even. I think a lot of stuff is making its way through the dream state as well. So we also have to execute a strong voice and sovereign position emotionally and in the astral to protect ourselves to a certain extent. And that again is an opportunity to establish our own sovereignty in the experience of going back to the beginning and settling of debts. Black Moon Lilith is involved today because before we even got here, the moon was in this quincunx with Jupiter, and at the same time was in a sextile to Lilith. Now it's retrograde. This is the true Lilith in Gemini. So there seems to be a real turning inward, and I've been feeling it already, and it seems it's not nearly as bad as when the moon was in Cancer. It was like turtle shell, but now this does feel like a survival mechanism to kind of insulate ourselves mentally and in our own in the signals that we are allowing into our space, only because we're not fully familiar with it right this second. We are pioneering new territory, and we may want to find those who speak our language, and that's going to be a much more conducive connection to this experience of, I need to release the steam from this boiling kettle right now that is my own insides. There are those who speak our language. There are those who have moved into this new territory at the same time, and we find each other. And maybe this is something within us. Maybe this is experiences that we've encountered in our own past or in some sort of past life or multidimensional perspective. This is how we can make the most, right? This is a sextile between a Gemini and Leo, so the moon and Black Moon Lilith. So know again that it's masculine energies, but both of these very feminine, feeling-based, very strongly sacred feminine rootedness and wisdom. So get into the feels, and you don't have to, you don't have to show everybody what you've come to realize here. It's just find those who actually are going to understand what you're saying. Because right now, although the time is definitely here where Jupiter wants to be the ringleader, come on, right? And that we are cleaning up everything, right? Preparing, cleaning up, allowing for purification of our own, based on our own soul to initiate this and identifying with it. It's still going to be difficult with the quincunx to a Leo moon, but again, this is where we have the opportunity to adjust ourselves when we get very individually frustrated and overwhelmed while facing all of this very powerful expansive, brilliant, and dissolving energy in the social and collective unconscious, right? The settling of debts. The opposition with Saturn today is also really powerful because it is going to be one of the few things that allows us to connect to our resilience in the face of disillusionment, rather than the feelings we may have that have us flapping our wings dizzily trying to fly when we aren't really supposed to be flying. And this is really about a premature expansion of consciousness. So this will be very sobering. It will be very, it will feel like our emotions being limited, and it'll feel like a wet blanket, possibly a foot getting put down of Saturn. But this also shows that our resiliency is tapped from the social environment, from humanity in general. And it's in the face of adversity where we see how strong we really are. And even though we're going to be feeling like, if I just flap my wings, right? If I just am passionate and driven enough, if I just allow, if the steam is that, if the steam can just be that powerful coming through me, I can actually, up level or whatever, right? I can expand my consciousness. And as much as that is, as much as that has value in certain contexts, I mean, Saturn is really going to it's going to be a very strong foot down. But again, remember that it's the disillusionment and the discouragement that we face up to that really shows us what we're made of as a society. So keep that in mind as well. It's going to be still a very challenging day. The Ides of March is just so loaded with energy and symbolism. And then to look at this moon in Leo and the nodes as well, it's very karmic, and it's very, I think there's just a lot of overwhelm right now. So we talked about, let me see if there's anything in particular besides, and then, this is where it's going to get interesting, because by the end of the day, the quincunx will also be with Pluto in Capricorn. And there's such a yearning for our personalized voice to come into form, a conscious form. It's like a mermaid coming out of the ocean, but is only halfway out. And so it's the human half that is emerged out of the ocean of consciousness, but it's the tail and the fins, right, that are still submerged, that are meant to be there. It's not quite fully emerged, but ready to be reborn, right? And that is the highest possible potential of the last degrees of Leo, is rebirth, solar rebirth, becoming aware of one's connection to source or the universe or God through full expression of their authentic self. And again, a quincunx with Pluto that's just like, I'm going to take it all. There's nothing to emerge from necessarily. You don't even have to emerge. It's just pulling back the layers so much. It's like when they unearth Göbekli Tepe or any kind of archaeological site. It's not emerging. We're just pulling everything away from it so that it seems as if it's emerging. So, excuse me one second. Okay. Sorry, I just had to get a drink of water. I just paused it. So I'm going to end it there, my friends. That is where we're going to leave it. So, and that's at the end of the day, right? And so, there is such a strong yearning. There is a lot of frustration. There is a sense of needing an outlet for our own individual creative expression, especially from our intuition. It might not be something that we can even intellectualize, but I think with Lilith today, it's showing that there's kind of a draw down into just staying insulated from maybe, the new intellectual territory necessarily. It doesn't mean that we can't transmute and engage with our own inner alchemy or even find a creative outlet for our own feelings and emotions, but we don't necessarily, it's not necessarily, we can show that by expressing what we have discovered about ourselves, perhaps, right? And sometimes it's very difficult to find a way to address the group, but that's where this quincunx with Jupiter in particular was really useful, I think. So if we go ahead to tomorrow, which is the 16th, the moon's going to be in Virgo, and let's take a minute here to... The moon's going to come into Virgo and is going to make now quincunxes with all the Aquarius energy and going to be opposite Pisces over the next 2 days and make a trine with Uranus. So, this is where we can actually find a physical means to utilize that energy that will reach some sort of release point by the end of today within us. And then we actually start to establish a practice with it, establish a routine, establish a way to labor or to work in service of our own highest potential, with the intention of offering it as to the social order or to relationship, right? Service to others. That is the intention. I think it'll be a lot more, it'll bring it down to a much more manageable, but also, I would say, a little bit more focused, emotional or intuitive connection. So over the next 2 days. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I will hopefully have the daily medicine transmission posted a lot earlier than this. I appreciate your flexibility and your willingness to change with me and Catalyst Energies. So if you're interested in a reading or energy work to support your process, or to be part of, the monthly patrons on Subscribestar and have access to your astrology forecast by sign twice a month, as well as the Starseed Fellowship twice a month, you can follow the link in the description box below to Subscribestar. And there's also links to my website. You get on the email list there. Everything you need is in the description box below in order to further your participation in Catalyst Energies. So thank you very much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you tomorrow for the daily medicine transmission for the 16th of March. Take care, everyone. Peace out.